Hello, welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, Melissa. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for doing this.
Sure.
I appreciate you being flexible. Sorry about the communication issue.
Yeah, no worries.
So as I explained, this is to go a little more in depth than some of the forums have gone so far. A lot of them are the same kind of 2-minute answers, limit your panel with other people. This is just your time. You have 20 minutes. I do have 7 questions that will guide the conversation, but if you want to start with the first question and just keep talking, it's your prerogative. It's just 20 minutes for you to tell the voters what they need to know about you or what you think they need to know about you.
Okay,
Are there any questions on the format?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. You broke up.
I asked if there were any questions on the format.
No.
Okay, so this is Stephanie Meyer. She's running for Pinellas County School Board District 1. And we will start with the first question, which is, tell me what you love about public school.
So as a public school attendee, I'm a Pinellas native. I grew up here in the county, and I'm very familiar with our public schools, specifically because of the fact that I attended public school. So again, grew up in public schools here. My mom was a public school teacher. My sister was a public school teacher. She just transitioned into teaching in a private school temporarily for now, because that's what's best for her family. Because that's where her girls are going to school currently. But so public school, what's great about public school is the fact that it's a place, and it has become a place really since I was in school for all. There's a lot of different options for families. I think right now in particular, in the time that we're in, in the midst of the coronavirus, that's where all the options are. And when we talk about options, we're talking about virtual school, we're talking about the ability to go back brick and mortar. And then of course with my PCS, you've got the option to have this more structured schedule as well. So I think, there is our public school system serves a wonderful purpose, and we have done a lot of work in our public school system to make sure that the system itself is serving the diverse types of students and children that we have in our county.
Fantastic. The next question is, what are the attributes of an effective school board member? Which attributes are your strengths and which do you struggle with?
So the attributes of a school board member really are pretty simple. Number one, you're responsible for ensuring that you are fiscally responsible with the budget, et cetera, which we've got a moving forward $1.6 million budget. And for me, I have worked in sales and marketing for a very long time prior to becoming a teacher for 17 years. And I was kind of on my own in a lot of capacities, depending on which company I worked for, to manage accounts, and we're talking multi-million-dollar accounts, multiple accounts. One of the accounts that I am very familiar with handling is Publix, and I'm sure everybody's heard of that. And so that's one of my strengths is just having that experience of budgeting and handling such a large capacity and such a huge amount of people and resources. The other important, there's a couple, but the next most important attribute of a school board member is being responsible, being fiscally responsible, and being accountable. I think accountability looks a couple different ways. Number one, you're accountable to the taxpayers. You're accountable to the people of the community. You're accountable to the parents and the students that you serve, and you also are accountable to the teachers. And so I have the strengths to do that. Like I said, I worked in business. I'm now a teacher. I've been a teacher, first started as a long-term sub. Now I'm a full-time teacher. And so I understand what's happening in our classrooms. I understand what has happened and the progression and the things that have changed in our classrooms over time since I was a public school student and then to now. And then I think the really the most important thing for a school board member is accountability and accessibility. That's what our parents are asking for. I have been talking to parents for the last couple years. Who are your school board members? Many times they don't know. And our school board members need to be accessible and accountable to our families and to our students, to our teachers, to our community. That really is their role. It is to make decisions that are based on the values and the desires of the community.
Fantastic. We got the next question is, what role does family and community engagement play in public schools?
It should be playing a much larger role, in my opinion. And I think we do have families that are engaged. That's not to say that we don't, but we do have parts of our community that are engaged. But I think if we really want to bridge the achievement gap, and if we really want to solve some of the longstanding problems that we've had in our system, in our school system, we've got to get community support and family support for our students. And so one of the things that I really want to focus on is reaching our families, reaching those families that feel as though they have not had a seat at the table or that their voices haven't been heard. And another thing that I'm hearing as I'm talking to families is that they have felt as though, because maybe they work full time and they don't have time to volunteer in their child's school, that their voice isn't as important to some of the organizations and to the school itself. Also, families that don't have the resources to, donate or start organizations that help their child's school. Those families feel a little as though they're not given, their voices aren't heard. And so for me, I understand that as a working mom that you can't, you're not going to be, not every family has the means or the time to be able to do those things. And so because of that, I think a lot of these families feel like they're not being valued, they're not being heard, their voices aren't, they haven't had a seat at the table. And so one of the big things that I want to do is change that. And I think the way that we change that is we reach those families by going to where they are. We've asked these families to come back. Let's come to PTA meetings, come to, new school orientations, come to this, come to that, come to teacher conferences. And oftentimes it's not working. And we know that that is so important. And as a teacher, I know, that I have to have the buy-in and the support of my students' families to really see them succeed. And so we need to go where these families are. We need to meet them where they are. We need to ask them to please take a seat at the table, be a part of their child's education, because it's vitally important. We've got to have that continuity between teacher and what's happening in school and the parents. And as far as the community goes, and I can remember a while ago, maybe I don't even remember how many years it's been, but it's been a long time. We used to have these programs called Adopt a School, and they were great. And what they did is they engaged the community. They helped the community get involved with the needs of our schools. And, we had twofold types of resources with these programs. We had resources in the form of people, and then we had resources in the form of outside funds. And I think there is a lot of value in engaging our community, and that's something that I will be doing as a school board member as well. As I mentioned, I grew up here in Pinellas. A lot of my support is coming from local businesses, business owners that are now business owners that I grew up with. And so, and again, I worked in sales and marketing in this county for 17 years. And so I have all of these connections and these relationships that I can bring to the table to help kind of bridge some of that gap, get our community re-engaged with our schools. Mentorship programs are really important. I've talked to multiple business owners over the last year and a half who really would love to get involved in something like this, and share their business with our students that maybe have an interest in those businesses, post high school or whatnot. So very important that we engage our parents, that we engage our community. And we really need to make sure, first and foremost, that our families feel valued, that they know that their child's teacher and the system as a whole wants them to be engaged. And so I think we start there, and then we definitely need to be working, and I will be working with the community to try and re-engage that level of involvement.
Thank you very much. The next question is, If you are elected term on the school board, how do schools, the district, and the community look different in 4 years?
So this is a really tough question because there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding what this upcoming school year is going to look like. I think number one, we don't even really know we know that we're going to be fully funded, but we don't know what enrollment is going to look like. We won't even know that until the 27th, right? When our families have had to make a decision what type of school they're going to return to. But what I really see in a big picture way is that our families are really feeling valued and comfortable. I am the type of person, like I said, I grew up here. I've lived here most of my adult life, and I've got those relationships in the community, and I want to continue that. I want to continue making sure that our teachers, our parents, and our students can come to me and talk to me. This is my issue. I need this. I need that. Or I didn't get this. Can you help me with this? And that's my entire campaign. That's what has been happening. I give people who reach out to me on my campaign social media after a little bit of dialogue. If they want to continue that dialogue, I'll sit down and meet with you. I'll give you my personal cell phone number. I'll give you my email, and I have responded to every single question that I have been asked. And I think that's important. And so for me, I think in the next 4 years, you will have a board member who will be accessible, who will listen, who will take time to sit down with someone, a member of the community, whether it be a teacher, a parent, business owner, whatever, and engage. I think that's important. That's the role of the board. The board members are the only democratically elected body within what would be a completely insulated institution. And so their role and their obligation and their duty is to the members of this community. And so I think that, number one, you will see that change. Number two, I would like to see our schools improve dramatically. Reading is a big thing, reading proficiency. We know that by third grade, if our students are not reading proficiently, they carry with them that struggle their entire academic career. And so I really want to tackle that issue. And I think the biggest component to that is making learning fun again. I think we've really lost the joy in learning, and we've made it so difficult for our students, especially our young students, with all of this very difficult testing. And so I would like to see learning, especially learning to read, be fun. And we need to bring back that love of learning so that these students don't feel like, oh, this is so hard, I can't do it, I don't want to do it. We don't want them to feel like that. That is not conducive to the learning environment. So I would like to see us make learning more exciting, and maybe our students, like how I learned to read, don't even realize that they're learning to read. And just adopting programs, I think, in our schools that give our teachers a little bit more autonomy, letting our teachers kind of make the decisions on how to deliver the content to their class, to their students, based on their students' needs. I think that's important too. And so I think that our schools can all be good schools. They can all be good schools, but we have to look at each individual school and treat them individually as well. We can't look at it as a whole. Just as our student population is extremely diverse and has different needs and different requirements and different ways that they learn, I think we need to tackle each school in that same way as well. And I think we can do that. So number one, accountability, accessibility, for me as a board member. Number two, improving our reading, instilling a love of learning for our students. I will be an advocate for ending high stakes testing. I'm not in support of that. I think that as a teacher, I have students who I know the material, but when it comes time to take these tests, they're struggling. So I think we need to look at the student individually, and we need to find other ways to determine their success and how they're doing. And then again, instilling the love of learning, giving our teachers more autonomy, and treating our schools with a little bit more autonomy as well, letting that leadership kind of guide our teachers and let them have a little bit more leeway in how they deliver the content and the material to their students based on their students' needs.
Okay, next question is, what kind of school board member are you and will you be if reelected? I apologize, I didn't fix this question between you and the last person I interviewed, so
okay.
I apologize.
No
So
worries.
what kind of school board member will you be?
So accessible, somebody that you can call, somebody that you can trust, somebody that will listen always. I know for me, the most important thing as a mom is that I can go to my child's teacher and say, or go to the superintendent of my child's school and say, I have this issue, or I need this, or help me with this. And I know that has been one of the biggest complaints and concerns that our parents have had. So I'll always be accessible. I'll also be a good steward of our tax dollars. I think right now this is really, it's always important, but right now it's really important. A lot of our business owners, our property owners are struggling. Many of them have not gotten back to work yet. And so I think we need to be very responsible about the way we make decisions with our budget moving forward. And I think too, we can look at our budget and decide, once we know what enrollment looks like and what the next school year is going to look like, as far as, where our students are going to end up and which option. I think we can start to move our model, our business model, our fiscal model, to a more sustainable method, making sure that we're spending wisely and that we're saving, so that, if something like this were to happen again, we're much more prepared. And I know that our students are from 4th grade to 12th grade are going to be able to get laptops through the CARES Act, the CARES Act emergency funding that the school system received. But I think we need to be a little bit more, we need to anticipate better things like this, and kind of have a plan of action ready to go. And I think we did a really great job with the transition from traditional school to virtual, but I still know that there were a lot of students that fell between the cracks, and I had students that did as well. And so I think just kind of anticipating what's next, we need to kind of look toward the future and start to make decisions that reflect the changing times of education. So I will be definitely looking for innovation and new ideas, bring fresh ideas to the board. But I think the biggest thing is accountability and accessibility. I think that's what our parents want in a board member, and that's exactly what I will bring to the board.
Okay, you have about 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. You have 2 questions. This one is, what are the responsibility of the school board and individual school board members related to public education advocacy?
So it's really important that our board members advocate for our public school system. Our public school system, as I mentioned with the first question, is vital to our community. And we need to make sure that we have a sound public school system in place. But again, I believe that system needs to be as diverse and it needs to reflect the community as a whole. And so, we've done a lot of work in the last, I would say, 10-ish years with providing more options for our students. But I think that we need to do more. I think we need to offer more career technical programs for our students. We need to be looking at Credentials Matter and looking and trying to determine where the jobs are for our students who don't, want to go to a traditional 4-year college. So I think our board members, they have a big role to play in making sure that they have relationships with other leaders in the community, making sure that the needs are being met of our public school system, ensuring that our public school system is reflecting the community as a whole. And so, again, as a board member, that's something that I will do.
Okay, you have one last one. You really have covered it in many of your answers, but oh, sorry, I've got to go to over there and publish the question.
Sure.
I apologize. One would think, no, it's coming. One would think after doing all of these, I would do this, but I would be better. What does constituent outreach and constituent services look like under you as a school board member?
So this is really important, and actually, and I mentioned this when we talked about bridging that gap and kind of getting parent and community involvement. It really is an outreach program that I would like to create, and I'm not necessarily saying that we need to, add an entire new unit of people to our system. But what I would like to do is partner with maybe some businesses and maybe some students, some education students from SPC or USF, and start a task force where we're doing outreach on Saturday mornings. We're going out to where our Pinellas County students are playing ball, or other activities that they do outside of school, and we're coming to these parents and we're asking them to come back to the table, telling them that the education and the success of their child depends on their involvement. And so, community outreach and having connections within our community, and especially in this seat, because it is county-wide, I think it's important that you have somebody in this role who's from this county, number one, and has kind of seen the transition from when I was in school, when I was finished with school 20 years ago to now, and somebody who's worked in the community like myself. I've always worked in Pinellas County, and so I think outreach is a huge component of this, and it is something that I have done over the last 38. Well, I guess I wasn't doing outreach when I was 5, but you know what I mean, as an adult for the last 20 or so years. And it's something that I believe is vitally important, and I will continue that as a board member.
Fantastic. Thank you. You had like 4 seconds left, but you used your time perfectly. So you are actually my last interview in either Hillsborough or Pinellas County.
Oh, wow.
And so we're going to finish editing them. I know I should use the technology better by now, one would think. So we're going to finish editing them today, and then we're going to put them up all at once, because the goal was that nobody saw the format of the questions. You guys were all on equal footing coming in. Sure. I will send you the link as soon as we are done with it, if you choose to use any portion of your video, and then we'll be sending it out to our subscribers. For your set, we'll be sending it to our subscribers who are Pinellas County wide and promoting it on social media.
Okay, wonderful.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.